Algeria International, our voice in the world.
This is the English service of Radio Algeria International. It's time for the news.
In today's top stories, Algeria's permanent representative to the United Nations, Ammar bin Jama, has stressed the importance of a political solution to the conflict in Sudan in order to address the humanitarian crisis in the country. Algeria has denounced the passivity, double standards, indifference and deafening silence within the UN Human Rights Council on the humanitarian situation in Gaza. Humanitarian non-governmental organizations have called for an immediate and permanent ceasefire in Gaza and for humanitarian aid to be delivered specifically by land. Hello and welcome to Radio Algeria International. The President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, received on Wednesday a delegation from the Algerian Economic Renewal Council, CREA, led by its chairman, Kamel Mouella. A press release from the Presidency of the Republic said that President Tebboune congratulated this important organization for its role in building the national economy, hailing its success in contributing to the stability of the national market as well as that of all economic actors. For his part, Mr. Mouella expressed satisfaction at the meeting with the President of the Republic and thanked him for the opportunity, which, according to him, was very fruitful.
In my own name and on behalf of the members of the Algerian Economic Renewal Council, I would like to thank the President of the Republic for the warm welcome reserved to us. This meeting was very fruitful. We have evoked several topics relating to economy and the improvement of the business environment, in addition to the obstacles facing Algerian economic operators. We also discussed ways to develop Algerian industry and achieve self-sufficiency, notably in the field of transformation industry and the industry of inputs. We also evoked a topic to which the President of the Republic attaches great importance, namely the purchasing power. The President had earlier sent a message to all Algerian economic operators who adhered to the initiative of the Council to lower the prices during the holy month of Ramadan, and thank God the prices of products have decreased and their availability in the market has increased.
The hearing also focused on all investment projects between November 2022 and the end of February 2024 that will create 150,000 direct jobs. The head of the Tala'a al-Hurriyat political party, Rida Benouane, has affirmed in Algiers the importance of a national cohesion to face up to the various challenges and threats amidst geopolitical challenges witnessed by the world. In a statement to reporters following a meeting granted to him by the President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, at the headquarters of the Presidency, Mr. Benouane said the meeting was an opportunity to listen to the vision of Mr. Tebboune on several issues and confirm the vision of his political party on the importance of national unity. Now, Prime Minister Nadir Al-Arbawi chaired on Wednesday a government meeting devoted to examining several sectors, notably renewable energies, the fight against climate change, the improvement of national healthcare coverage, the digitalization of the sector of justice, as well as the endowments. Mohamed Khatel has more details.
A press release from the Prime Minister's office indicated that the government meeting also examined the regulatory texts relating to the health sector, in particular those aimed at improving national healthcare coverage and reducing transfers abroad for care, as well as allowing Algerian health professionals to acquire new knowledge on modern technologies in the diagnosis and treatment of pathologies through cooperation with foreign hospitals and specialists. As part of monitoring the implementation of instructions of the President of the Republic relating to the digital transformation of all sectors, the government listened to a presentation on the digitalization of the justice sector, improving the quality of public service for the benefit of citizens and litigants, and the facilitation of legal procedures and the monitoring of legal cases.
The government also examined the progress of the Renewable Energy Development Program as well as the development of the national strategy for the fight against climate change.
This is Radio Algeria International. The Minister of Foreign Affairs and the National Community Abroad, Ahmed Attaf, has received a telephone call from his French counterpart, Stéphane Séjourné. A communique from the ministry indicated that the two ministers reviewed bilateral relations in their different dimensions, as well as the preparation of the next high-level meetings. They also addressed in depth the ongoing discussions at the Security Council on the Palestinian question in general, and more particularly the unprecedented tragedy experienced by the Palestinian population in the Gaza Strip. The same source added that the two sides had converging views on the necessity for the UN Security Council to take urgent and appropriate action to deal with the humanitarian situation in Gaza and order for an unconditional ceasefire there. In the same context, the two ministers underlined the need to revive the political process to achieve a fair, lasting and definitive settlement of the Palestinian issue on the basis of the two-state solution. Algeria's permanent representative to the United Nations, Ammar Benjama, on behalf of the members of the A3+ group, including Algeria, Mozambique, Sierra Leone and Guyana, has stressed the importance of a political solution to the conflict in Sudan in order to address the humanitarian crisis in the country, where 18 million people are facing acute food insecurity. In a joint A3+ statement, Mr. Benjama said that almost a year has passed since the crisis erupted in Sudan, killing many innocent people and displacing many more, causing massive displacement both inside and outside Sudan's borders. Regarding the humanitarian crisis prevailing in Sudan, Mr. Benjama had this to say.
If we had the ability to reverse the hand of time, it would have been unimaginable for a country like Sudan, known as a breadbasket of its abundant resources and agricultural traditions, to face acute food and security risks. Regrettably, the war led to a different and sad reality. It is even more concerning to contemplate the figures describing the direct impact of the rapidly deteriorating humanitarian situation on children.
Algeria's permanent representative to the United Nations has called on international donors to further do efforts, saying that the Sudanese people deserve to live in dignity.
The reality emphasizes the importance of a political solution to sustainably address the humanitarian crisis. The protagonists must therefore clearly commit to the ceasefire as a critical first step toward a political solution. The situation in Sudan is not of any less importance than any other file on this Council agenda. We need to remain focused on the best way and means to de-escalate tension in coordination with the Sudanese authorities. The innocent Sudanese people deserve dignity, protection, and a better future.
That was Algeria's permanent representative to the United Nations, Ammar Benjama.
During the general debate,
as you followed in our top stories, Algeria has denounced the passivity, double standards, indifference, and deafening silence within the United Nations Human Rights Council concerning the tragic humanitarian situation in the occupied Palestinian territories in the face of the impunity enjoyed by the Israeli occupier. Mohammed Khatel has the details in this report.
During the general debate on Item 4, human rights situations that require the Council's attention, at the 55th session of the Human Rights Council, the head of Algeria's permanent mission to the UN office in Geneva and to the international organizations, Rachid Beledhan, reaffirmed that Algeria attaches great importance to the promotion and protection of human rights and to honoring its commitment to strengthen universal respect for all universally recognized human rights and fundamental freedoms in accordance with the United Nations Charter and international law. Rachid Beledhan added that Algeria insists on the need to deal with human rights issues in the global context using a constructive, non-confrontational, non-politicized and non-selective approach based on dialogue. He also underlined that human rights issues must be dealt with fairly, equally and objectively with respect for national sovereignty, territorial integrity, neutrality, non-selectivity and transparency as guiding principles. In this context, he indicated that Algeria considers that the national regulations relating to the human rights situation in certain countries under this agenda item are decisions that remain counterproductive as they do not enjoy the support of the authorities of the countries concerned and therefore do not contribute to a positive change in the human rights situation in these countries. The head of Algeria's permanent mission to the United Nations office at Geneva condemned the Council's inaction, double standards, stagnation, indifference, and absolute silence in the face of the tragic humanitarian situation in the occupied Palestinian territories in view of the unjust impunity that has encouraged the Zionist occupation to continue its brutal aggression and blockade against Palestinian civilians, resulting in the martyrdom of thousands of Palestinians, most of them children and women. He also underlined that the Council is obliged, within the framework of its mandate, to take credible decisions and firm measures to denounce the systematic, widespread and proven violations of international humanitarian law and the human rights of the Palestinians in the occupied Palestinian territories by the Zionist occupation and to hold it accountable.
UN Rapporteur on the Right to Food Mikhail Fakhri called for imposing sanctions against Israel and criticizes the international community for its failure to halt Israel's war on Gaza. He accused global governments of complicity due to their inaction during his speech at the United Nations Human Rights Council a few weeks ago, and he recently posted a video of it. Let's listen to him.
The images of starvation in Gaza are unbearable. And you're doing nothing. You talk and you talk and you talk and you give us lovely words. How is it that the Human Rights Council is not addressing a situation where we've never seen a civilian population go so hungry and so completely in any time in modern history? We've never seen children pushed into malnutrition so quickly. This is on your watch. Please turn your words into action. Those countries that are sending weapons are complicit in genocide and starvation. Many of your countries have economic and political and diplomatic ties with Israel. I commend those countries that have started to break off those diplomatic ties. It's time for sanctions, real action, real pressure.
Dozens of Palestinian civilians, the majority of them children and women, were today killed and injured in the intense and ongoing occupation bombing of Gaza City as the savage Zionist aggression against the defenseless Palestinian population in Gaza enters its 167th day. More details with Said Bougazi.
For the fourth day in a row, the Zionist occupation army continues a massive incursion and invasion into Rimel neighborhood and inside and around the Eshifa medical complex amid missile and artillery shelling and gunfire, which led to the killing of dozens of citizens, while others were left with separate injuries as a large number of victims are still under the rubble. The occupation army blew up the specialized surgical building in the Eshifa medical complex west of Gaza City amid the complete loss of communication with all medical teams inside the complex in Gaza City. The Zionist army threatened everyone inside to evacuate it immediately as families inside appealed to the Red Cross and international institutions to go to the complex to rescue them. Dozens of citizens were killed and others were injured in violent artillery shelling that targeted homes on Al-Rashid Street and its surroundings in El Mina area west of Gaza City. The western neighborhoods of Gaza City, Tel El Hawa, Rimel, Sheikh Ajlin, and Ash-Shati camp are seeing intense artillery shelling. An airstrike targeted a house in Ash-Shati camp west of Gaza City, killing and injuring dozens. In central Gaza, a number of citizens were killed when the occupation bombed a house in the Maghazi camp. Occupation warplanes also bombed a house in the city of Deir el-Balah in central Gaza, killing and injuring dozens, while 9 people were killed and a large number are still trapped under the rubble after Zionist aircraft bombed a house in the new camp west of the Nusayrat camp in the central Gaza Strip.
Non-governmental organizations active in the field of humanitarian action have called for an immediate and permanent ceasefire in Gaza and for humanitarian aid to be delivered by land, saying that air and sea routes can in no way replace aid delivered by land routes. In this appeal, signed by 25 NGOs, emphasis is placed on the proportion of the population in a food crisis, which is the highest ever recorded on the IPC scale, the Integrated Framework for Food Security Classification. Meanwhile, UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres urged the Israeli occupation authorities to ensure access for humanitarian goods throughout Gaza and a support of humanitarian efforts. Speaking from Brussels, the UN chief said the following.
Today, more than half of the population, over 1 million people, are facing catastrophic hunger, according to the scientific classification that was recently published. And so we must act now before it is too late. I call on the Israeli authorities to ensure complete and unfettered access for humanitarian goods throughout Gaza and for the international community to fully support our humanitarian efforts. We must stand together to silence the guns, step in to save lives and protect humanitarian workers, speak up for human rights, dignity and gender equality, respect international law.
For her part, the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, has expressed concern about the humanitarian situation in Gaza and the risks of a ground invasion in Rafah by the Israeli occupation.
We are extremely concerned about the war in Gaza and the unfolding catastrophic humanitarian situation. Gaza is facing famine. This is unacceptable. It's critical to achieve an agreement on a ceasefire rapidly now. We are also very concerned about the risks a full-scale offensive in Rafah would have on the vulnerable civilian population. This needs to be avoided by all costs. In the meantime, we do everything we can to channel more aid to Gaza. We allocated an additional 125 million euros for humanitarian aid for Palestinians in 2024. Now, the flow of aid by land is too slow. So we call for the opening of more land crossings while we further develop alternatives.
That was the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen. You're still listening to Radio Algeria International.